All right, everybody,
Good
welcome.
morning, sir. How
We
are
have
you?
some, we have some new faces. Vendella, did I pronounce that correctly?
You got it correct. Yes, it is
All
Vin.
right.
Rob, I've
We have,
been chatting with Vendella the last few minutes and Abe, and we're chopping it up here.
yeah, no, well, wanted to welcome. We have uh, Vendella and her company. I don't know that we got the email announcement out to your office, Vendella, but since we communicated, I wanted to invite you personally. And then, we have three offices in Pennsylvania that are joining the select group. They are Remax affiliates. They will be continuing to operate as Remax affiliates and part of our family. That happened as of the beginning of the month. We have two new offices out in Panama City and what's known as the Villages, but it's Wildwood. And those will be partnered with David and I at those two locations. We're excited. I believe you are in the Villages now, David.
I'm here. I'm with Ed and April, and we have a full day with Renee planned of about 6 meetings. After this, we're going to go take a tour of a new development and check out all the Villages has to offer. So very exciting.
Wonderful.
Don't see my listing, man. 867 Cortez.
I have that on my list, Ron.
Okay.
There you go. I didn't see your face on the top, but there you are. Yeah, it's on my list actually right here. I got my nice little Remax collection book from an event, and it's your address is on there. It's on Super, right?
It's on Supra. It's on the side garage door.
Perfect. I'll try to get there today.
All right, my man. Thank you.
You got it.
All right, so I want to get right into today's content. Looks like as the weather gets warmer, attendance gets later. These are the diehards here. Let's go on. So I wanted to talk about like controlling the narrative and some core beliefs besides opening doors and things of that nature. But this is a quote from Keeping Current Matters is, I believe every family should feel confident whether buying or selling a home. Okay. And I think people fail to take action because they have incomplete information, they have discomfort,
Okay.
and that drives the narrative. Let me just mute Mr. Abe. Probability, why are some people hesitant or not as motivated as before? I want to take us all back 3 years ago, even 2 years ago. We would have died to have a little bit more inventory. And if it's New Jersey, maybe you have one or two houses that you can show somebody in a price range. And in Florida, there may even be more. Gary, how is Arizona inventory looking now?
Yeah, we're going up. I want to say we've got about a 4.5, 5 month supply of homes looking at the whole market itself.
So your typical buyer looking has 4 to 5 homes to look for in a particular price range on average?
I would say at least 4 to 5, yes.
Okay, and in 2022, 2021, you probably had to get out there this afternoon to make an offer, right?
Oh yeah, if you were out, if it came on the market this morning at 9 o'clock, it probably had offers by 2 or 3 o'clock.
Right. So does this market feel a little more normal to be able to transact in?
I think so, yeah. I mean, the buyers have a lot more options on there. I mean, we definitely have shifted into a buyer's market here.
And yet buyers now might have influence from the media and say, oh, it's not trendy. It's not the right time to buy, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So today is about controlling the narrative, and the narrative is you need to know the facts, not the hype. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And I don't even know what the relevance to this is, but I just wanted to put this up there, like the probability of a recession. Like maybe people are holding off buying because they might think a recession is coming, right? What happens during a recession? Anybody?
People stop buying.
Rates go down.
Yeah, prices go down often.
Wrong. During recessions, what happens in, I think, 9 of the past 10 recessions, and it might even be further out, I don't have the data on it. During recessions, interest rates go down, Beth. And
Yeah.
when interest rates go down, what do house prices do?
House price, it's an inverse relationship.
Right. So if we have a recession and the government's trying to stimulate the economy by lowering rates, home prices go up. Now, I think we need to have this data, and the only time that didn't happen was like the 2007 or 8, when it was a I'm going to call it a financial fraud scenario, which kind of put the economy into a recession. But if we don't know it, Beth, and if we're not having these conversations with our buyers, they're gonna remain locked up. Okay, you know, people are talking about tariffs, crazy market conditions. If you're analyzing real estate trends, you know, we have to be able to help them break it down. Here's some statistics. Let me see. Where did I find that? I'm looking for, but basically the majority of people feel like it's not a great time to buy now, but a plurality of the people also feel like home prices are going to be going up. And the data shows that home prices are likely to rise. Now in Arizona or Florida, is it possible that you could buy and next year you might be slightly down? Absolutely. But to quote someone that you all may know, Warren Buffett, only a fool tries to time the market. Right? Nobody can time the bottom. Like if you're trying to time the bottom, you're not going to buy until it starts going up, and you're going to say, I missed it. Home prices are going to go up when interest rates go down. Home prices will go up when there is inflation, right? Because there's a cost to replicate a house, right? With tariffs, all the material to construct the house will be rising. So if it costs more to build a new house, the competing existing home is going to rise as well. Does that make sense? And give me a hell yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, this is some data from Keeping Current Matters, if you ever follow that. You know, 82% of homes have mortgages at 6% or below. So that as rates drop, it should be freeing up some inventory. And you might want to take a screenshot of that if you don't have it, because I think it's pretty cool. I'll blow it up. So 20% are below 3, 33%, a third, are between 3 and 4. And then we have almost 30% between 4 and 6. And close to 20% are above 6%. Okay. If your buyers are saying, hey, you know, I think the housing market's going to crash, look at the amount of equity that people have in their homes today. It's very different from when the market was in distress because of the financial crisis. Who was in business in 2007 or 8?
Me.
Raise your hand.
I was.
Didn't we have a lot of people that were using their home as a piggy bank, right? There were these stated income home equity credit lines, cash out refinances, or all these funky financial products to take money out of your house and over leverage it.
Yeah,
Right?
definitely.
Do we have
Definitely.
any lenders on the call now?
So I'm a loan originator, but I'm new. I just got my license months ago, so I'm learning in that space.
So on the origination side, there are extremely limited, if not zero, financially irresponsible products available. Like there's no 550 FICO, 110% financing. That doesn't exist, right? Most loans that are done today require, income verification. They all require asset verification. Probably the most aggressive loans are maybe bank statement loans to look at your deposits for self-employed people that are creative.
Right.
But is there anybody on this call that has a foreclosure that's listed that you're working with right now?
I am working with a property that we had to stop the sale on Monday. It was supposed to go on Tuesday.
So
We go in and stop it.
okay, so you have one listing that, and how many have you done in the past year that were in foreclosure?
That's my first one.
Okay, and I don't know how many people we have on right now. I'll stop. We have almost 50 people on. We only have one person with a foreclosure. So if we have the best agents in multiple states and there's only one agent with a foreclosure, do you think the housing market is in peril or it's pretty stable?
I would say it's stable.
I'd say it's pretty stable, yeah.
Yes, I would say it's pretty
So
stable.
people who are fearful because of what happened in 2008, that's a false narrative, right?
Yes, absolutely.
And where do you think people are getting their information today, Vandella, about home prices and predictions? Where are most of them getting it from?
The internet, social media, and a lot of that stuff is not real. And they just picked anything they heard and believe it. So
Right, the internet and social media. Now, if we're holding ourselves out to be the agents and the advocates for our clients and our future clients, right? Do you think we have a moral obligation to control the narrative and to have facts and integrity in that narrative?
absolutely. That is why the content that I post on my pages has nothing to do with the nonsense that the other people are posting. And I try to get data from our Remax platform when I'm pushing out the information. So they're getting credible juice, as I call it. So correct.
Right. So here's the last 6 recessions, and the only one that had a significant drop was 2008, and most of those recessions, the home prices went up. Okay, anybody in the business in 1980, 1981? Anybody remember those times? Nobody? Gary, you weren't in the business then? Did you at least buy a home in 1980?
I got in 83, and I think the first deal I had was VA at 17.5%.
Okay, so
I
that
did
was
great.
that was a challenging market.
I had a job at a bank and I remember when the prime rate hit 20%.
Yeah, send me her information. I'll take care of it.
And people still bought.
Yeah. Still have to live somewhere.
Gotta live.
Right. So if not you, then who, right? Who's going to give them the information if it's not us?
Correct.
Right. And I hate to say this, but sometimes we assume like we know things without doing some research. And sometimes we're even victim to the same, I use the term misinformation or skewed information that's provided on the web or that's provided on the traditional media. Okay. We are the advocate for clients. If we make the decision clear, we take the mystery out of it, will there be more or less transactions?
More,
right?
absolutely more.
Okay, we can't assume that the buying public has full information. If you just take yourself back 2.5, 3 years ago, Ryan, you were in the business 3 years ago, right?
I just came up on 2 years.
2 years, okay. So two years ago, was there more inventory or less inventory, less choices for you?
I would say there's maybe a little less, but
Okay,
Pretty simple.
three years ago, there was like no inventory. Okay, and buyers were abundant. And if you could tell them and sit them down and say, hey, someday there's going to be choices, they'd be like, you're my savior, Ryan. Now that there's choices, they're like, I'm not sure it's the right time to buy. Think about how crazy that is, right? And I'm not saying that we sell people. I'm just saying that we give them the facts. Like we owe it to them to give them the information so that they can make a credible choice, right? I mean, Ron Piccolo, you've been in the business when rates were ridiculous, right?
Yeah, there were 14% when I got into the business. 14 to
And,
18%.
and people still bought, right?
Yeah, we were still making deals.
So this is, having a 6 or a 7 or a 5 or an 8 shouldn't really make that much of a difference in whether you're buying or selling. And the facts are really peculiar things, Um,
I bought a home in 1989, and I know the interest rates were 14 to 16%. Didn't stop me.
yeah. So everybody should write this down if you have a pen handy or just listen to it. Okay. If we don't tell the story of real estate, it's not told in our favor. If we don't tell the story of real estate, it's not told in our favor. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Right? Do we not assume that, sometimes our customers, think they know more, or maybe they feel like they have a good grip on what's going on? And even when we do some research ourselves, sometimes we're surprised. Is there anybody on the call here that doesn't know what the net worth of a homeowner versus a renter is?
Net worth of a homeowner is something like 40 times more over a lifetime than a renter.
Yeah, it's the net worth is not it's not 40%, David, it's 40 times.
That's what I said, 40 times.
No, I understand that's what you said, but I just want to make it clear for the group because 40 times means that if your net worth is 200,000, that you're now worth 8 million. That's the difference. It's not if I'm worth 400,000, I'm worth 800,000 or 1,000,000 It's, homeowner 400,000, a renter 400,000, homeowner 8 million. Is that 40? No, 200,000, 8 million. It's just astronomical. It's unfathomable, the difference. But it's because, when you own a home, you start to take advantage of all these benefits.
You know what?
Right.
Not enough people are taught at a young enough age about how important it is to become a homeowner earlier on. I think so many people would be set up in their life so much better if they were lucky enough to be an owner early on and start understanding how to pull that equity, buy their first investment property, start being, landlord, and rinse and repeat. I see it time and time again. And I'm just so grateful that I bought earlier on and started, saving and investing and, explaining that to, even into agents, newer agents that are still renting. It's so much easier for them to sell with confidence when they explain their home buying experience and now how much they remember from that and what they put that, they take that experience and put it into their daily practice.
Yep. So, but if we're not, having these conversations, we're just fielding a Zillow call, running and opening the door and assuming that they know what they're doing, what the home market is, we're probably diminishing our value and ultimately diminishing our compensation because our compensation is directly related to the value that we deliver. If somebody,
Can I interject something? Your graph with the 14,000 down on $400,000 shows an interesting scenario that really shows the whole picture.
right? And I'm going to work on trying to make that a little bit more user friendly, but I'll pull that up for.
Hey, Rob.
Yeah.
Rob, this is Howard. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
we hear you, Howard.
Okay, I'm at a tire store having some tires replaced, so bear with me. But we see ourselves as advisors, And oftentimes we have to qualify the people that we're talking to when this important question is, it comes up as to whether or not this is the time to buy. I have a couple of comments. One of them is short and very powerful. And I'll say, you know, you look at, you've asked me for advice. Is that correct? Yes. So I have to ask you before I get into the conversation, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear, or do you really want to hear what my thoughts are? That'll determine which way we go in the conversation. 90% of the time they say, well, yeah, I really want to hear what your thoughts are. Bingo. Now we've opened up the door for a meaningful set of advices for them to consider. The second thing I would ask is, are you an investor in the stock market? Yes, I am. How long have you been investing? Oh gosh, probably 20 or 30 years. In those 20 or 30 years, have you ever been able to time the market for the perfect purchase price of the stock? And have you ever been able to sell it at the absolute high? Ever? The answer is no, actually no. Well, you're not actually an investor any longer, are you?
She wants us to come tonight. I want to watch the club. Can you switch your appointments around? Yeah, you
Hold
can.
on.
You got it.
All right, Howard, unmute yourself, buddy. Anticipation for Howard's wisdom.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Did you lose all of that wisdom just now?
No, we only lost one sentence, Howard.
Oh, well, when I was talking about the market and timing the market in the stock market, have you ever been or do you see yourself as a stock market investor? Yes, I do. How long have you been doing it? Oh gosh, 20, 25 years. So out of that 20 or 25 years, have you ever actually been able to sell your stock at the absolute high? No. Have you ever been able to buy it at the absolute low? No. Well, you're no longer in the market, are you? Because you've missed all the opportunities, the highest and the lowest, but you're still in the market? Yes. Well, so what makes you think that you're going to be able to time the real estate market? You know, most people, when they ask for my advice, when's the perfect time to buy? My comment is today. Well, when's the best time to sell? When you need to. You know, and quit trying to time the market to the absolute lowest or the absolute highest. It's not going to happen. It's never happened to you in the stock market. Why would you think you're going to do it in the real estate market? Go buy a house. Yeah.
So I don't know if any of you picked up on like the authenticity when Howard was talking about, you know, here's the options for you now, right? And that's something that's you can't really fake that authenticity. And I think a lot of what we are taught in the business is lead generation. And in reality, you know, if you treat your clients, you know, with the candor, authenticity that Howard is, you're talking about relationship based versus a transaction based. Okay. And, you know, I think in my mind, you know, when I'm sitting next to one of you at an opportunity, a buyer or seller, right? My mind is saying that, look, if all we're ever going to do, Mandela, if all we're ever going to do is list your house and sell it, and I'm never going to work with you again, you know, could I just ask to be excused now? Because like, I don't really want to be in a transactional relationship. I want to be in a relationship where, you know, you're going to want to go out of your way to tell your neighbors what a great job that we did. You're going to want to go out of your way to tell your friend how, you know, the advice you got changed your life, right?
Absolutely.
You know, we as agents, especially at Remax, you know, tend to be the, you know, the top tier of the industry, but we can still do better, right? I think we missed the boat on educating them on real estate as an investment. I'm sorry, we do. We feel like we're selling them, but it's not we're selling them. I want to just educate you because here's how I think when you're controlling the narrative, right? Everybody should be given an opportunity, right? So, Vandella, if I'm going to talk to one customer about, you know, buying a kiddie condo, how can I not talk to everybody about it? Right?
Absolutely.
imagine that we have this reunion of all Vendella's clients. They come over to the Park Chateau. They're all there talking about how great their experience was. And one says, oh my God, my kids are worth $1 million because when in college, Vendella got them to buy a kiddie condo. And somebody else says, she never told me that. She never mentioned that to me.
It's funny.
No, seriously, how would you feel?
That's true because it's happening to me. So Monday, I had an appointment at 5 o'clock. I was supposed to meet you, I think, in the office. I was asked to show up. And I came and I said, Roman, do I have to stand around? I have to go to a 5 p.m. meeting. He said, go ahead, Vendella, you're good. So I left and I went on that appointment. The person that I joined on the listing appointment is in a group of 12 people that I sold homes. And it's the same thing that I've always done, is educating them about the process of having this property work for your behalf. And I share my story about being from Jamaica, didn't know anything about real estate, bought my first property, how it's worth double now. That helped me to leverage to buy another property in the county where I could get my son into a better school district and in turn into college to where I'm at right now in the real estate 16 years. And I've always done that. So my home buyers consultation is an education session for 2 hours. I educate them on that, and that's how I'm successful. Me being from Jamaica, didn't know much about real estate, gone into the business, and exactly what you said is what I've been doing. So you're absolutely correct, and I tell them, this is my little story that I always tell them: if you don't want the equity that you're gonna get, will it to be later. And it's a big joke. So I agree with you. Educating them is the most important step that you can take in building the long-term relationship. And they come to my house for parties and talk about me all the time because they're all my friends too. So they become friends, and they're the ones who are propelling my business because I don't do too much advertising. But the referrals and the past clients are the ones who has helped me to be in the position where I'm invited on this call today. So thank you for talking about that.
Vendella, I'm going to tell you a big secret, okay? I think a lot of us don't have these conversations with our clients. And I don't say past clients because once a client, always a client, right? We don't have these conversations with our clients for 2 reasons. One reason is that we feel like we're pushy trying to sell them, okay? And if you can change the narrative to say, hey, Vendella, I just wanted to make sure that you were educated and you were informed and you knew what was possible. I'm not here. My tonality is not encouraging you to do it. It's not encouraging you not to do it. I just want to educate you, because what would really be horrible for me, Vendella, is if, 5 years from now, we go to the Grand Chateau, you meet a bunch of my other clients and they tell you about all the great investments they made, and you said you were declined that opportunity. So if you don't want to do it, that's fine. To be honest with you, most people won't take advantage of that, but I think everybody needs to be given the opportunity to understand it. Who knows what the second reason is? Gary Singer, you want to guess what's the second reason why people don't do that? You're on mute, sir.
Could you ask?
Lazy.
So there's I believe there's 2 reasons why people don't educate their clients, right? Sometimes they feel like they're selling them something, so they don't want to do it.
Well,
And I believe,
can I add something?
Sure. I don't know who that was.
So I kind of had that situation this week. These people don't have a lot of money, but they have a house with 2.5% mortgage. They are so reluctant to give up. The house is really too small for them now. So they said, what are the pros and cons about keeping this as an investment property? And to be perfectly honest with them, which I feel like I always have to be, I had to say, and you're only allowed to to have 1 renter a year, that it's of the utmost importance that we get a really qualified renter in there. And they said, well, what happens if we get the renter and then they lose their job? Something happens. Now we're stuck with 2 mortgages for a year because we can only rent once a year in this investment property. And to be really honest with them, I mean, I had to say, well, you're going to have to be able to come up with the 2 mortgages, but that's worst case scenario. So how do you get around that argument?
Well, I mean, there's risk in everything, Terry, right?
Exactly.
there's risk in the stock, buying a piece of paper saying I own a stock, and there's risk in owning real estate. You can play the odds. There's even some companies, maybe this is good news for you. There's companies that will guarantee the rent for a tenant for a fee.
That's interesting. I didn't know
There's
that.
companies, so I was working with a large, I guess you'd call it regional landlord with one of our agents here in New Jersey. And because the security deposit laws are very rigid here, we have to send out a statement every year and you have to notify them where it is. And, you can't use it for rent until you throw them out. Like there's a whole lot of different, challenges here. This landlord said, we don't collect the security deposit. We have an application fee instead. And then we have them go to this company and the company reviews their credit, reviews their income and says, all right, let's say it's a $3,000 rental, right? For $1,400 or for $600, we're going to be a guarantor on it, right? So that if they damage the place or if they don't pay the rent, this company ensures that you get paid. So I don't know, maybe that should be something we look into at a future mastermind.
That sounds
But
great. If you can get me their number,
for every challenge, there's an opportunity.
I can
But I'm
pass
going
it
to go
on to
back
these people.
I'm going back to Gary, because Gary, what do you think the second reason? Because you've been in the business a long time, you're very wise. What do you think the second reason people don't have that conversation is?
I think it's a risk reward situation that people are nervous or worried and they don't like to take chances.
So I think the reason, if I'm maybe gonna paraphrase, sometimes agents don't have that conversation because they're not fully confident themselves. They haven't done the research to be able to educate the client. So therefore they want to have avoidance, right?
Yes.
Many residential real estate agents, unfortunately barely have the skills to get, simple transactions concluded. Exclude the financial analysis part, right? That's a whole different scope of real estate. But if I'm your real estate agent, I'm your professional, I don't want to just be the person that helps you buy your primary house. I want to be the person that gives you all the information for all your real estate needs. Does that make sense? And in order to do that, we need to invest in ourselves. We need to be able to control the narrative. To Vendella's point, we need to be able to advise everybody what's possible without feeling like we're selling them, right? Sometimes we want to call somebody and tell them, hey, just wanted to talk to you about, now your house has $400,000 of equity, right? Were you aware of that, right? Yes, but we don't want to sell. Great. I just want to give you some other options in real estate so that you are aware. I'm not pushing you one way or another, but I believe an educated client makes the right decisions. So if you say, hey, did you know that you can take out, 100,000 from your house, purchase an investment property or two, and then let me show you, was it Abe? Was it you who asked for the sheet? Was that you? But you can give them this sheet, which shame on me. I've been in the business for a long time and I had to create this sheet for a visual so that everybody on our call could understand the power of compound appreciation. Okay. But I really don't think that I haven't had many requests for agents to get a copy of this. I haven't gotten many requests from agents to say, hey, can you really show me how this really works? But Vendel, I'm going to use you as just an example here for having a conversation, but buying real estate, over time may have a lower return when you factor in dividends than owning real estate is possible, right?
Right.
But if you buy real estate today as a first-time home buyer and you have $14,000 to buy your $400,000 home, okay, you put down $14,000 and If I told you that appreciation the past 20, 40, and 60 years has averaged 5.5%, most people would say, if I'm going to be in this house for 5 to 15 years, I'm okay with a 5.5% assumption. So if you have that assumption, you put down 14,000 on a piece of real estate, and that real estate appreciates 5.5%. In 1 year, you've appreciated $22,000. It's 157% return versus if you were to invest in the stock market and you got a 10% return, nearly double, your 10% return gives you $1,400.
Right.
Okay, I believe that we don't educate consumers about the power of leverage and compound appreciation. Okay, I mean, there's a lot of things we talk about, and think about this in 10 years, okay, at 10% return, okay, which is probably hard to do consistently with no risk. You got a 10% return, that 14,000 has become appreciated by 22,000, right? So it's more than doubled. But in 10 years with 5.5% appreciation on real estate, you're at $283,258. Let me ask you, would you rather have 283 or 22,000? I would say you probably want to have 283. And can I tell you something else which I didn't really talk about? And this is just, I'm connecting the dots here right now. 10 years from now, Mandela, you go and sell your house. You and your spouse, your partner, you go and sell your house 10 years from now, you have a $283,000 profit. You know, what do you pay income tax on that? What do you pay?
26%.
Zero.
Well, zero, sorry, yeah, 0%.
On your primary residence, you pay zero.
Yep.
So you skate out with 283,000 tax-free without wearing stripes. And the financial advisor has $22,000 in your bank account, but when you take it out, that's going to become back to 14,000, right? Because you got to pay tax.
Yeah, no, you're right. I thought you were asking me how much I pay in income tax, because that's what
No,
my.
No, it was not your question, but it was the hypothetical buyer,
Yeah,
right?
no, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Yep, absolutely. No, you're correct. And can I have a copy of this sheet? I need this.
Absolutely.
Exactly what I'm talking to them about. I just didn't have this data, so this is going to be so helpful for me. No, I agree with you. But I kind of personalize it when I talk about my house, and I say, look, I pay $125,000 for that thing, and I said it's worth $269. I said, do you know how I know that? I said I got an appraisal recently because I was trying to do a refinance. And in doing that, I got the appraisal and it's worth double. I said, I did the math myself and I calculated how much I've paid for that mortgage over the 12 years that I've owned it. And it's already doubled. I said, guys, I don't know what to tell you, but if it did it for me, just imagine if you jump in the game now, what that will do for you and your family in 5 to 10 years later. And I get them every time when I personalize it that way. So it's good to put yourself in the position to know how to do it, understand it, and then be able to explain that to someone else. I remember when I started to buy this house, everyone was telling me it was the onset of the recession, 2010 when I bought it. It's not a good area, all the stuff that was happening in there. I didn't see none of that. I just knew that I did not want to be a renter. And I am so happy today that I made the jump and made that decision because it's a rental property now and it's paying my mortgage and getting me a profit. So I agree with you.
Mandela, there's a lot of agents that don't invest in themselves, but I'm going to be completely honest that there's a lot of quality agents that are like, you know, the 80-20 or the 90-10 rule, like 10% do 90% of the business. So the other 10% that are doing a lot of business, they're pretty good at the transactional piece. Like they know the neighborhoods, you know, they're very professional at submitting offers. But where I think we have a huge opportunity to separate and create some distance is by looking at ourselves as their entire real estate resource, right? Because if you see these numbers, right, why do you only own one house? Right? There's no, and that Terry, that person that owns that house, hopefully that house went up in value, right? So my CPA experience, my finance background is when you move out of that house, Terry, yeah, there's a little bit of risk, but we might have found a way to mitigate that. You move out of that house and you convert it to a rental property, your CPA is probably gonna tell you to go get an appraisal, right?
All right.
And you paid, how much did they pay for that house, Terry?
Offhand, I don't know.
How much is the house worth, ballpark?
What was I gonna list it at? 450.
So 450. So let's say they owned it 20 years and they paid 200 for it,
No,
right?
they're not there that long. They're only there about 10 years.
Okay, so they're there for 10 years. They probably paid 200 for it or 250, right? It's more than doubled.
Pretty
Okay,
much.
so check this out, everybody. They can keep their 2% interest rate, get an appraisal of the property showing it's 450. It's just as if they sold the property because that's when they put it into service as a rental property. So now when it goes as a rental property, it's now on the books at 450. If you sell it a year from now for 500, you're only paying $50,000 capital gains on it because you lived in it 2 of the past 5 years. Did you know that, Mandela?
I
Did you?
know. I
Huh?
know that. Yes, yes.
You did? Okay. So
Married
that's why,
couples get a 500 exemption. If you're single, then you get 250,000. Yes.
right, but did you know that you can put it into a rental property without selling it and take advantage of that appreciation? That
I
was the
did not
question.
know that. Didn't know
So you,
that.
so
And
you learned.
from any amount of time?
I didn't
Rob,
know.
can I
As long-
interject something?
So yeah, 1 second, Abe. So Terry, as long as they, like, what you need to do is you need to get a third party appraisal to show that when you put it into the rental inventory, here's what the value was, and then you're able to defer, you're able to take advantage of that step up in basis without having to pay taxes on it. I would tell you to talk to your accountant, but if most of us in this call didn't know that, here's an opportunity for you to educate your clients, right?
Yes.
And if you really want to, like, if you really have your North Star as helping your clients, right, they're going to refer you more business. It's going to be easy for me to call Abe and just say, hey, Abe, I just wanted to make sure that I informed you about what some of my clients are doing. And I don't have that sound of desperation. I don't have the high pitch in my voice where Abe's like, oh, I think Rob needs to make another sale to pay his mortgage. No, Rob is calling me because he cares about me and he wants to educate me. And you know, if Abe decides that it's not right for him, he might say, my twin brother might want to do that. Right, Abe?
Right. Can I interject something? Let me give you a caveat to this. When Rob goes on an appointment and he shows people this chart, the following thing he says is, if we should work together, then we'll go forward. But at least the fact not I work separately or I work differently, but if we should work together, now you've got to into your plane. Now they're on your page. Now you got them where you want them. That's the way you go forward. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for that contribution.
Can I add
But anyway,
something very quick?
yes, Carmen, go ahead.
All right, this is actually what you call it, like 1031, which is one of my clients just sold one, and he bought this house from me 2 years ago. He made 191,000 in 2 years. So he's taking this money and he's buying 2 more condo and townhouses with equity that he got without, that's what you call a 1031.
So, but that was an investment property, not their primary, correct?
That was an investment, correct?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, that's another opportunity to educate people. But most people, and even some accountants, don't know that you can. And I don't believe it's changed, but they don't know that you can change you can take your property, recognize the appreciated value, put it in as a rental property, and then when you sell it, you can avoid the appreciation from the time you bought it till you put it as an investment property tax-free. It's amazing.
I didn't know
And it's
that.
just about I want to educate my clients so that they can make the right decisions, right? I'm not pushing you to do it, but if I help you and I give you the information, even if it's not right for you, you're going to go to the PTA meeting, Mandela, and you're going to tell your kid's friend's mom, hey, your dad, you know you can do this?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it's amazing. Like, competing for, I charge 2.5%, 3% buyer agent fee, right? We're all in that space, right? That's the commoditization of our business. Okay. The real value to the business is being able to have those conversations about, I want to be your entire real estate professional, right? I'm going to guide you through what you need to do, right? So anyway, like I hope that that's a bit of an eye opener, and I hope that it gives us the ability to control the narrative and the conversation and not let, the media or ignorance drive our decision making, right? And if nothing else, maybe 10% of you, maybe 5 or 10 of you will take this weekend and call people and say, hey, I just wanted to have a conversation about any other real estate needs you have. And I think a lot of people don't want to buy real estate because they think, Alina, I don't want to buy because if the toilet clogs on Friday, I don't want to get a call when I'm out to dinner. Or they don't buy because, if the tenant stops paying rent, I don't have to deal with eviction, right?
Right.
So there are some different, opportunities and alternatives that we have to consider. And nothing is risk-free, right? There's zero. The only thing that's risk-free is doing nothing, and even that has opportunity cost. Okay, but I am passionate about making sure everybody knows what their decisions are from a competent professional, and then they can decide how they want to move, right? And when you do these type of things, and somebody's like, "Oh my God, I'm now a millionaire because of Mandela," price doesn't matter, does it? Does it matter if you're 2.5% or 3%? Will that person question a buyer agency agreement when you do that? Mandela, if you make somebody a millionaire, will they ask if your rate is 3 or 3.5% on the listing side? Probably
Nope.
not. Most of
Nope.
them won't.
I've made a couple of those people, and they're the referral source for me. So, I have investors that I work with. Here's this one, before you know it, their portfolio grew so rapidly. So, you're correct. So, and it's funny because the conversation started from a 2% commission, and I said, fine. And I worked with the buyer and the seller. And so now I've made more than that money that I lost on the first deal. So no, you're correct. The money becomes not even a factor once you build a good relationship. So yeah.
Yeah, I almost think like, to be what we are is, we're real estate professionals, but we're also educators, right? I mean, we open doors, right? We show properties, we give our opinion, right? Where we have expertise, but I think we fall short on that, complete real estate education, right? So I want to be your complete professional, not just your buying and selling your house professional, right? And you might say, Mandela, but my kid's going to Delaware State, like, I can't make any money there. Well, you could refer it, you make a couple of pennies, but more importantly, you're doing the right thing, right? And David Haller and I were on a call with somebody, and the person said that, what, a lot of times if it's not a big deal, I'll just give my client out without even asking for a referral fee. And David and I were like, whoa, you're leaving money on the table. She's like, you know what, Rob? When I do that, they give me one back for no fee. I was like, that's pretty interesting, right?
Yeah.
Without hesitation, because it comes back to her so often. She's not even with our network, and she gets our referrals because she's that good and people trust her. And I think it's all in the delivery of your tone. And people can hear if you need it or you want it, or you're just doing this because you have passion and you want people to win. And I think that's what they believe in her. And I think that's all of us. And I mean, you have to feel people have to trust you. We're something that trust.
I still don't recommend it, David, but it was very interesting.
By the way,
referral fee, so I get you.
Dale Carnegie said, education without application is worse than worthless. Remember that.
Oh, Abe, I love your one-liners. You just always on point.
Thanks, buddy.
So lucky to have you, Abe.
So Abe, I want to be getting quoted by you next to Dale Carnegie, and I want to call it edutainment, right? Instead of entertainment, it's edutainment, right? You get educated, but you don't apply it, is edutainment.
That's our next week's
Okay.
call. It's coming.
No, but seriously, like if you come here and you're like, wow, these are all great ideas, but you leave without doing anything, it's edutainment,
Yeah.
right? But I want to light a fire where you're going to help people, and you know, I'll go back to Zig Ziglar. You know, you could have Zig Ziglar said you could have whatever you want. Who could finish that sentence?
If you work for it.
No,
Nope.
If you
you help
help
others get what they want.
yes,
Lisa,
exactly.
Lisa, go ahead. Lisa, you go. Go ahead.
If
You
you
can have
help,
whatever you want.
if you help enough people get what they want, if you help other people get what they want, you will get what you want.
Right. So if you just help, like if you just help people, like the money just flows, right? The money just comes to you because you're doing the right thing. So yeah, that's, you know, Ryan, as a young man, I might have thought that was corny, right? Oh yeah, no, I want to learn the sales tricks, right? Like, and to me, sales tricks were like, you know, borderline, like, hey, I got to deceive them on how to do this, right? But if you really break it down, you say, hey, I'm always doing the right thing. You don't have to worry about how you come across because you're authentic,
You're doing the right
right?
thing.
You don't have to worry about it, right? If you know your material stone cold, you're very confident. You don't have to fake it till you make it. And if you're always doing the right thing and you're never stretching the truth, you know, this is a Mike Ferry thing. Like, you know, when you're in sales, just be honest.
Yeah.
Be honest with them because you never have to worry about what you said. I'm just
Yeah.
honest with you. Right? All these people don't make millions of dollars by giving foolish advice. Okay? If you make yourself the person you want to hire, right? You know, spend an extra half an hour in the morning, you know, educating yourself, figuring out how you can reinvent the business, how you can add more value to clients, right? Just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Point. No, you're on point. It
Richard,
starts with honesty. It does. It starts
Richard,
with,
did you?
yeah.
I'm sorry, Richard, did you want to say something? I saw you talking. I don't know if you're on the phone, but you're on mute, sir.
Hello? Can you hear me?
No, Richard, I was talking Richard Paoletti. Richard Brito, did you have something to say?
Is that me?
No, I think I was talking to Richard. Rich, are you trying to say, you got to hit the bottom left to unmute yourself there. And not you, Richard Brito, it was there, Richard on the camera there.
We good?
Yep, we're good.
Terrific. Hello, everyone. Yes, so you talked about knowledge without usage. To me, immediately, when I saw the chart and talked about the compound appreciation, mailing the chart to the person you just had the phone conversation with, so they get it a couple days later and they've got something really tangible to refer back to, some impressive numbers and the information you gave them, then call them back a couple days after the mailer arrived. I think that's a good usage of that, just right off the top of the head for the cost of postage.
Yeah, but yeah, the cost of postage versus the opportunity cost of the educate, like it's just not everybody's it's not going to resonate with everybody, Richard. And some people are like, oh, I had 2 meetings. Anna, you might go, I had 2 meetings and nobody wanted to do anything. But I'm like, yeah, but you educated them. And they might come back to you, Anna, and say, you know what? It wasn't right for me, but I gave it to my nephew and they're going to buy a house with their, you know, it's incredible. You know, this is a true story. We did a home buyer education event, home buyer seminar in Boynton Beach with Michael Gopi and his team. And Michael Gopi's cousin, who just got out of the military, was supposed to spend time with him. He's like, I'm sorry, I have an event I need to run. So why don't you come to the event afterwards? We'll go out to dinner. Okay, it's a true story. I don't think Frank is on the call, but so they just graduated the woman graduated from college and her husband just got out of the military. Right. And they were looking for a place to rent out in Southeast Florida. So they went to this home buyer event and they didn't realize that they can buy with no money down with a VA because they both got new jobs, but they're on salary that we can count their income. They thought they had to work for 2 years. Now, these are educated folks, okay? I think the gentleman was ROTC, so it wasn't just an enlisted man. And then his wife just got out of college. They thought they couldn't buy. And they were only there, I hate to say it, you know, shame on Mike, but they're only there because, you know, Mike was supposed to be entertaining them and they were just hanging out there. And at the end of the event, they wind up being home buyers, right? Think about that. You know, sometimes you take it for granted, right? And Michael might have felt a little bit uncomfortable or awkward talking to his cousin about, hey, do you want to buy a house when you come out? You're feeling like he's being the salesman, but just by osmosis being next to the event, they're like, you mean we can buy? We thought we needed to work for 2 years. I didn't know that my military experience counted when I'm going to get a job in the civilian world. And my wife didn't know that while she was in college, it didn't count as if she was unemployed. So anyway, these are all amazing things that we have that we can share with people that go beyond, you know, 2.5%, 3% buyer agency agreement. What's your listing fee for selling the house? It's the total real estate agency experience. It's adding value without being asked, right? It's by calling them up and having no commission breath when you're talking to them, right? If you're calling somebody trying to sell them solar panels, they know you have commission breath. But if I'm calling you and saying, hey, Vendel, I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of what's possible. You know, I'm not asking you if you want to do it. I just wanted, did you know this? If you didn't know it, I'd like to educate you. And is it fair to say, Vendel, if I educate you and you know somebody else that might, you know, this might benefit, that you could pass my name along? Is that reasonable?
Yes, it is.
Right?
Absolutely.
You know, and when I go door knocking with the agent group, right, my famous line is, hey, you know, I just want to introduce myself. They look at me like, why? I'm like, just want to see if you know anyone I can help, right? Kind of Zig Ziglar stuff. Help with what? Oh, moving in around the neighborhood. Oh, I don't know anybody you can help. And I'm like, but sometimes they go, I don't know anybody, but I'm looking to move.
Right.
So don't take anything for granted. Don't let anybody else, you know, doctors don't want WebMD educating their clients on what medication to take, right? So why should we let our clients take the information from Zillow, from the media, from social media, right? We shouldn't allow that. We should control that narrative. We should be available. We should be giving without asking. And then we're going to be in the abundant planet. Everything will come to us.
I agree.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Any last statements before we wrap it up?
Rob, I have a question for you. Earlier in the mastermind, you stated that during a recession, when interest rates fall, home prices will increase. How do you compare that to the 2008 financial crisis when mortgage interest rates fell and home prices also fell more than 20%? What would you say the difference is?
So I would say that was that recession was caused by flawed lending practices, right? So that was a greed recession, and you know, that was only 1 in whatever it is, 1 in 20. But right now, that's not going to happen, because look at the home equity. Back in 2008, everybody was leveraged up to here, right?
Right.
And then when their value went down, they were underwater, and they had to sell. So this is a different environment. And, you know, I would say it authentically, you know, the first person that needs to buy into it is us, right? And if you don't believe it, then you need to do research. And if after doing research, you still don't believe it, then don't have the conversation. But I believe that, you know, when you're in a recession, interest rates drop. It makes home ownership more affordable. And unfortunately, the people that lost their jobs, they're not in the buying phase, but all the other people that are still able to buy are now they're coming out and they're competing for properties, pushing the prices up because it's an affordability piece. Does that make any sense to you, Dan?
Yeah.
If I may add something here too that I've learned in the lending course. Back then too, there were a lot of adjustable rate mortgages. And guys, since I've had my license 16 years ago, I've never had a client who really took an adjustable rate mortgage. So that is the huge difference that we're seeing now. And because of the predatory lending back then, they were telling people to take these adjustable rate mortgages, and then they couldn't keep up with pace. I remember I got into the market immediately that time, and people were discouraging me to go into the healthcare business and not real estate because things were so bad. So we can talk about that and say, look, gosh, who's taking adjustable rate mortgages right now? some savvy investors, but not these home buyers that are buying the properties to live in. So I think, that's a good piece to add to what Rob just said. Yeah.
So Mandela, just and we're gonna go over like 2 more minutes, but Mandela, what area do you cover?
So I'm Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and I just got my license in Delaware, and I'll go wherever. My last property I sold was in Piscataway, New Jersey. So I just sold something in Atlantic City. So if the work is there, Vendela is going to try it. I have an electric car, so I don't care. I'll go wherever I need to go. But primarily, my market is Philadelphia. That's
And
it.
she will,
But
and
I go
Mandela
everywhere.
will teach you to get your license and your kids as well.
Oh, thank you.
He runs a real estate school.
But you came on after I told him that I also teach a course for Pennsylvania. I do a mentorship here in our office in Remax. So yeah, Amir Gali, if you have newbies that you want to train, I'm versed on letting them learn the documents first, because I see a lot of agents that are just paper pushers, and I don't want that. So yeah, little mortgage knowledge here and there, little real estate knowledge here and there is helpful.
So Mandela, I'm gonna give you more than you asked for. We're also gonna send you Glenn Baker's AI in real estate videos for you to watch. But I'm also gonna ask you to forward it to 5 friends of yours at Remax Affiliates, so they get to come to next week's session and you can move that along.
All you need is 5. I can give you 10 people or more.
All right, you give me 10. You give me 10. That's great. But just pass it along and tell them that it's an hour worth investing in. I just want to acknowledge, Richard is our new recruiter in Arizona. We have Miguel Wave. You're on camera. Thank you for being on camera in Broward and Palm Beach County. Both of them, actually. Miguel, Richard, and Vendela are all new to the company this week. So big round of applause for you. I have Sierra Ward. I don't know. Sierra's in St. Augustine, relatively new to the firm. Any opportunities there? I see Tom Patterson. I'm not going to acknowledge him because he's not on camera. And the proud father of 2 new offices in Palm Beach and the villages and
Panama City Beach.
Panama City, yes, a mental fog there. David Haller. So we're taking over Florida. So
let's go.
It's such an honor to work with all of you. And Gary Singer, the Mr. Real Estate for New Jersey. So thank you for your time, and hope to see you next week. Mandela, I'll send you that chart and the videos for you to get caught up.
Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everybody. Have a great
Thank
weekend.
you guys. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Rob.
Good weekend, guys.
Good
Bye.
weekend.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Rob.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.